G'day ladies and gents, and welcome to MagzTV's vlog for the 27th of the 12th, 2015, and what will be my last vlog of this year. And this is going to be a little bit of a special one, as the background footage for today, I will be sharing with you one of the last Christmas presents that I received this year. Admittedly, this was a Christmas present that I bought for myself about 6 months ago, but that doesn't matter. The Mirage 2000 is the newest module released for DCS World. It was released on Christmas Day for most of the world. It was released very early on Boxing Day for me here in Australia, and at the point of the flyout you're about to see, the module had been out for about 8 hours. Now, I originally intended to do a full live comms explaining as much as I know about its current startup sequence, giving a brief overview of the aircraft and everything else, until I listened back to it after I'd completed it. The video was ready to encode, and I listened to myself and realised at the time I sounded like I was about to die. It's been a very big Christmas. Christmas is always a massive event down here. My family isn't particularly religious. We don't really celebrate the religious portion of the holiday, but for us, Christmas is a massive excuse to get the entire family together and basically eat far too much food and drink far too much alcohol. And yeah, I was barely coherent at the time that I flew this flight, so I decided instead to use the footage as background for the vlog, so you get it all here. So you will see me moving the mouse cursor around as if I'm trying to explain something. That's because at the time I was. Now, our flight in the Mirage 2000 today is going to take us from Nellis Air Force Base. We are going to shoot over past Indian Springs, head north from there up to Groom Lake, otherwise known as Area 51, land and have a look around the hangars and see what's there. This will be the first time I've ever actually landed at Area 51. I had been holding off going there until a time where I was recording to give you guys my first impressions on whatever I find. If I happen to find anything at all, I was expecting some kind of UFO Easter egg or something to be hidden in there. I had done flyovers before and I had spotted at least one hangar that was open at one end, and I was curious on what was inside of it. Of course, the first time I go there, I listened back to the footage and I sounded like a blathering mess. So you're not going to get my reaction, you will get to see the footage however. So at the moment what you're seeing is me actually starting up the Mirage 2000 and activating all of its systems. This is a plane where you actually need to learn the startup procedure, as at least at this early stage in its beta release, DCS planes do go through a beta period as they're having the kinks worked out before they go full release, and being such a new plane, there's currently no auto startup procedure in the M2000. You either need to spawn the aircraft in single player already running, or you need to learn how to turn it on yourself. At the moment, after only such a short time of the module being available, I can fire the aircraft up and I can fly it around. I'm still not entirely sure how to activate the weapon systems, and I'm still having trouble with the navigation systems. They won't seem to align for some reason, I'm not entirely sure why. Also, activating the radar. I can't find a hotkey anywhere in the key bindings to activate the radar itself. I can turn the radar screens on, but activating the radar, there's no key binding for it, and I can't seem to find the switches or the combination of switches in the menus to turn it on. So I have no radar on the manual startup, no navigation systems, and no weapons. But going for a blad out to Area 51, I don't need any of them. I know the way. Having said that, of course, if I had spawned the aircraft in on the runway with the engines already running, the radar would already be activated and working fully, and the navigation systems are already online, aligned and working properly. Everything in the plane works fine. But where's the fun in that? So anyways, on to the vlog portion of this video. First things first, I'd like to thank everybody who's been here from previous years, who hung around for the entire year, and I'd like to throw a big thank you out to those who joined me this year. It's been a pretty good year for MagzTV. I've been a little disappointed with a couple of things, but it's been, well, let's be honest, the main thing I've been disappointed about has been access to the MBN. Unfortunately, I recently received news that I won't receive MBN until 2016, although at this point that is it was going to be pretty clear unless they install it in the next 5 days. However, I'm not entirely sure when. From the sounds of it, it might be the end of next year, which kind of sucks, because it means until then I can't actually start live streaming, which is something I very dearly want to do. I would have liked nothing better than actually to live stream this flyout, but sadly it hasn't been an option, and unless something changes and my MBN installation gets moved forward, it won't be an option for at least some time into the next year. However, I've been ecstatic with the growth of the channel, I've been ecstatic with you guys. I I've been having an absolute ball working on the channel. It has been great fun. In 2016, I'm hoping to expand the channel a little bit and start incorporating some games that aren't just aircraft. There's a couple of reasons for this. One, I love planes, I really do. But doing nothing but flying aircraft, either on War Thunder or DCS or IL-2, for the last, well, 3 years now, it's getting a little tiring. I'm going to continue the content that I've got right now, of course, that's not going to change, but I want to start throwing some more stuff on. Originally my plan was to start a second channel, but I actually threw this up to the guys who helped me make my Christmas video for this year. And basically their thoughts were, just throw whatever up on the channel. Don't worry about it if it's not a playing game, we'll follow you anyway. So I'm going to go with that. I'm not going to create a second channel, I'm not going to split my audience, I'm going to put it all up on the main page. What I am going to try and do, however, is organise an alternate upload point. Since I can't get NBN available here, I'm in the process of trying to organise at least an NBN upload point at another location that actually has access to it. If I can organise this, it means I'll be able to make a multitude of videos here all at once, go to that location, upload them all, and then set them live rapidly, which should increase, if I can get it organised, it should increase my rate of content release on the channel, giving you more to watch. So I'm not going to be cutting back on anything that is already on the channel. I'm going to try and increase my overall video output over the next 12 months. And I'll actually be starting with the varied content right now at the end of this year. Being as this is the gap between Christmas and New Year's, I have a lot of family stuff going on. I want to put up a little bit of easier, a bit more relaxed content that I don't need to stress about too much. And part of what I'm going to put up is going to be Subnautica. I'm going to start a playthrough of Subnautica. The main reason for this is my intention this year, in the lead up to Christmas, was actually to do a series of games that I like to play that are not aircraft related on the channel, but I never got around to making those. However, the one video I did make, Subnautica, got a really positive response. You guys seem really interested in it. A lot of people put in a lot of requests for me to actually do a playthrough of that game, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I can't think of anything better, just as something as a bit of a stress relief that I can drop in between my regular War Thunder, DCS or IL-2 videos. And it's actually a really good time for me to actually start doing a playthrough of Subnautica. Right after I did the quick look video on that game, the developers released a new patch for the game that actually overhauled the starting area and completely changed the landscape under the water. It changed the spawns, it changed everything within the area that you actually start in, and changed multiple biomes around the outside. So I have a huge amount of stuff to explore for the very first time. I haven't looked at any of it yet. I am going to hold off on doing that until you guys can join me in my exploration. So that'll be the first thing I add as new content to the channel. But what about existing content? Well, War Thunder's going to have a very interesting couple of weeks coming up. I logged on after all the Christmas Day stuff was done, everything was all finished, we're back home, the missus had gone to bed, and I decided to log on to War Thunder and actually have a look. And it seems I found myself with a little Christmas present. A large number of the new Thunder League vehicles, the premium aircraft and tanks that are available only for those who are in the Thunder League, have been made available. Before anyone asks, I don't have access to the E100. At the moment, it seems I have the new Mustang available to play. I have access to the Soviet tank with the 250 kilogram tank torpedoes, and I have access to the new Chaffee with the armor piercing rounds. I think it's a Chaffee anyway, I didn't look at it too closely, but much like when Gaijin decided to unlock the premium British tanks on my account, I didn't receive an email or a contact about it. I just jumped into the game, and sure enough, there they were. I'll also have some British tank stuff to show you. If you looked very closely at the start of my Christmas video, you would have seen that I had completed the grind on the Centurion Mark 10, and so that means I've got both of the Tier 10 tanks now available. That wasn't an audio glitch back there either, that was the Mirage is now supersonic, and I was pulling the camera behind the aircraft, so I was starting to pick up the sound waves from behind the plane. But anyways, back to what I was saying. The only vehicle in the British tree I haven't unlocked at this time is the last of the self-propelled anti-aircraft guns, and I don't expect that's going to take me too long considering how quickly I've gotten through the rest of the tree. So I will have some Tier 5 tanks to show you soon enough, as well as going through my favourites of the tree. There's a few vehicles I haven't shown that I've really enjoyed playing. I've actually been pretty impressed with the release of the British tree overall. None of the vehicles seem ridiculously overpowered. They all have their weaknesses if you know how to deal with them. A lot of them, well, the weakness is quite obvious. A lot of them, if you've looked closely at British tanks, they're kind of big blocks of metal. They're sort of like a tiger. They're fairly easy to penetrate if you just shoot at the big flat point. Other vehicles you have to get more creative with, but I'm looking forward to showing all of those on the channel. Obviously IL-2 will be continuing, and so will DCS. The Mirage release in particular, this plane has caught my attention in a way that no other aircraft in DCS has since I first got access to the Huey. Much like my time with the Huey, where I wanted to master that helicopter, I wanted to be very good at it, I wanted to be able to use it in all of its roles. The Mirage is a plane that, again, it's another one that I want to put the hours into, I want to learn. One of the particular things that really interests me about the Mirage, and makes me want to really put the hours in on this one, is its ground attack capability. Now, I haven't tested it at this time, but I was informed by somebody who is very skilled in the operation of the A-10 that if everything has been modelled correctly, I should be able to fly out with an A-10 pilot who should be able to get himself in position and start marking and lasing targets for me using the A-10's targeting pod. I should then be able to pick up on those targets and actually deploy ordnance against them from high altitude at high speeds. So it's not just an air-to-air combat capability that the Mirage offers, there's also a joint strike capability that I'm very interested in finding out how it works. And speaking of DCS and the Mirage, if you look at the background footage at the moment closely, that is Groom Lake, otherwise known as Area 51, as it has been modelled on the NTTR map. You can see the extremely long runoff point that is actually very well modelled. They've actually cracked it and made it look like a runway that hasn't been maintained, which, if it's based around about now, the extension to the main runway on Groom Lake has not been maintained extremely well. It's actually been closed for a number of years. I think they actually closed that extension in the 90s. It was originally built during the development of the SR-71. It's actually not designed for an aircraft to take off on. The SR-71 should be able to take off using just the main runway. However, if it needs to abort a takeoff, it requires such a long distance to actually slow itself down that they needed to extend the runway by kilometres in order to give it time to wind down. And that's why you'll notice on the main extension that I'm showing there with the cursor, there's actually no taxiways out to that section. No plane should show up on that section of the runway unless something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. But anyways, back to the vlog portion. IL-2 coverage will continue as normal. I have a couple more planes that should be released over the next few months for the Battle of Moscow expansion, and I'll just be playing and having a good time with it because I really like IL-2, Battle of Stalingrad and Battle of Moscow. They are excellent games. I've been having a great time with them and will continue to do so. I'm going to show some more of the tanks. I'm going to fly out in Mausame a couple of times as well. I want to see how the development of the Mausame project, or the addition of Mausame to IL-2, is actually going, and keep tabs on exactly how well it's operating, so you guys know how well it's going without having to purchase it, and whether or not it's something you want to pick up if you're not so interested in the simulation side of things. So new things that will be coming to the aircraft side of things on the channel over, well, I'm hoping the first one will be up in the next week or so. Recently, one of my subscribers, and I actually haven't asked permission whether or not I can say his name on here, but he knows who he is, sent me out a Oculus Rift development kit 2. Now this was one hell of a gift to the channel, and I've been playing around with it since the moment I received it, which was about 2 weeks ago at this point. Unfortunately, there's been a couple of problems. DCS, Subnautica and War Thunder, the three games that I was most looking forward to using it, seem to all have dropped their updates for the development kit 2. The support for it is still there, but the updates for it in order to make it work haven't been forthcoming in any of the new DCS updates, so 1.5 and DCS 2, which is understandable. They're working on an entirely new engine. I imagine the support for a prototype piece of equipment that isn't actually released commercially yet is probably pretty low on their list, so that's perfectly fine. Subnautica surprised me. They've been trumpeting their support for Oculus Rift and how well it works with their game for some time, so I was rather disappointed that that didn't work. And the one that surprised me the most was War Thunder, because they've had the Oculus Rift logos up on the game and on the advertisements and have really been pushing for it, and then I go to use it and it just plain doesn't work. Or at least it didn't work up until patch 1.5 release. Suddenly Oculus Rift now works again. They've updated it in 1.5 and got it to work with the new Dragor 2 engine, which is excellent. There's a couple of problems with it though. I was hoping to do either some sim combat or some realistic combat on joystick using the Oculus Rift. Neither one of these is an option. At the moment, the resolutions on the development kit 2 are actually so low that you cannot spot aircraft outside of 1.5 kilometers in sim. The dot just vanishes. It's like it's not there, which sucks. The marked version, or playing on realistic with markers, is actually even more problematic. While they have updated support so the Oculus Rift now works, markers do not show up while you are playing. So it's like playing in sim. And of course that's a problem. With no markers and an inability to see dots outside of 1.5 kilometers, combat is not feasible with the Oculus Rift at this time. However, I am still going to do some Oculus Rift videos on War Thunder now it supports it. I want to put some of this up on the channel. I'm really excited about the technology. Everything I've played with on the development kit 2 so far has been amazing. The immersion is huge, even though the resolutions are relatively low. What I'm going to do instead is put one of my Christmas presents from this year to work. I received a 1080p 60 DV camera. I'm going to hook it up so I can record my head movements. I'm going to show you the raw Oculus footage, so what the Oculus Rift receives, that strange split image that some of you may have seen before. And I'm going to also put up a direct replay file in normal resolutions, and I'm going to combine the 3 images into one, so you'll have my head movements in like a face cam in the top right hand corner, the raw footage for the Oculus Rift and what it's receiving directly under that, and then the full screen image will be a normal 1920 by 1080 video taken from the replay file of the actual flight, so you can see what I was doing. And I'm going to use that to demonstrate how the Oculus Rift works while you're flying. I won't be able to show combat, but I'll be able to show you exactly how well it works. It is amazing tech. Speaking of which, this was the only open hangar I found at Area 51. We've landed, it's a canvas hangar, and if you look very closely in the background, I was expecting some kind of Easter egg for a UFO or something. What I actually found is 2 Star Trek space shuttles, or 2 Star Trek shuttlecraft, parked at the back of the hangar behind all of the maintenance equipment and start carts. If you look, there's one on the right hand side just behind those pallets, and once I roll forward enough to get past this start cart and you look down the left, you'll see the back end of a second shuttlecraft parked. So no UFOs at Area 51 that I was able to find. I did, however, find 2 Starfleet vessels parked down the back. So it looks to me like somebody's been breaking the Temporal Prime Directive here. I did multiple flyovers of Groom Lake looking for other open hangars, but at the moment these were the only ones that I can find. Everything else seems to be fairly sealed up. There's nothing else there that's worth getting too close to having a look at. So from this point I just take off again and I head my way back to Nellis. And well, actually I'll show you that at the end of the video. Something for those that are playing on the NTTR map, I call it the Las Vegas slingshot. It's an interesting technique for those who are flying aircraft that don't have navigation systems, to line yourself up on the Nellis runway approach every single time, although to do it in real life would definitely break some aerospace rules. But anyways, as I said, 1080p camera, 60 frames per second. The reason why I haven't been doing live footage on the channel in the past is the only camera I had access to was a 1080p camera, but it was an interlaced. It was an old digital video camera. Didn't have access to anything newer, didn't actually have the funds floating around at the time to pick up anything that was newer. Now I have one, so I'm hoping that the following year I'm going to have a lot more live footage on. There's a Focke-Wulf 190 that has recently moved its way out to Australia that is completely working, operational and airworthy. It's currently based about 2.5 hours to 3 hours away from where I live, and I've been invited by some of my subs to actually go out and have a look at it on the day that they unveil it. I'm not entirely sure I'm going to be able to make that appointment at the time. I'm hoping I will be able to, but even if I can't, I will definitely be making my way up there sometime within the next few months to take a look at the plane myself. So I will try and put that up on the channel for you. Flight-worthy original 190s are rare, and we happen to have one, so there's no way known I'm missing, sharing that with you guys. The other one is I'm hoping to start doing some trips down to Point Cook, RAAF Museum, and show you some of the vintage Australian planes that we've got floating around down there. There's currently a Mosquito that's being restored. I'm hoping to get into some of the private hangars and actually be able to show you some of and the restoration hangar and show you some of the stuff that's going on in there. There's also some incredibly rare aircraft that show up down that end of the world that they've got in storage, both in storage and on display, that are non-flight worthy anymore. So I'm hoping to get some of those on to be able to show you guys as well. And with a little bit of luck, although I have nothing organised at the moment, I am trying to organise to have some time with the curator of the museum himself, and maybe with some of the pilots that actually fly the flight-worthy aircraft and actually put them through their paces, and get the opinions of, well, some real pilots on some of the machines in War Thunder. So to wrap this up, as I was mentioning before, the Las Vegas Slingshot. Fly into Las Vegas from any angle, and you're aiming to do a turn just south of the Dancing Fountains. It's the easiest landmark to recognise from the air. You can spot it day or night. There's only one large body of water on the Las Vegas Strip. And if you look to the left-hand side, you'll see the Las Vegas Spire. You want to line yourself up so you're flying parallel to the road that goes past the spire. And if you turn your head back towards the HUD, there's Nellis Air Force Base, and you're lined up right on runway 1. And it works every single time. Doesn't matter what angle you approach Las Vegas from, it will always line you up on the runway if you complete that turn and line up with that road. So if you're flying an aircraft like the Sabre, the MiG-15 Beers, any of the prop aircraft in the game that don't have guidance systems or landing systems or navigation systems, and you're approaching into Las Vegas and you're trying to spot Nellis in the distance, just line yourself up with that road, starting at the point of the Dancing Fountains, and you'll line straight up on the runway for a landing every single time. Still getting used to putting the Mirage down on the ground. I'm still a bit heavy on touchdown. Basically, I'm going too slow. I'm so used to putting the planes down gently at slow speeds. Delta wings don't like that. I've got to learn to put them down faster. Touchdown should be 180 minimum. And to finish this up with the biggest eye roll of this particular flight, all that flying out to Groom Lake, all the way back, and I decided I was going to park it in the hangars ahead, and this happens. I just ran out of fuel. This may be one of the fastest planes in DCS world, but it's also the thirstiest. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you had a great 2015. I hope you've enjoyed what's come to the channel this year, and I am really hoping you hang around for the next year. I'm hoping to have an even bigger one. Until next time, click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies. Well, I'll catch you in the skies in another aircraft, not this aircraft. This aircraft I'm pushing to a servo. Catch us later.